Yeah. So this is meant to sort of prepare for the 8-hour class. And at the end of this presentation, there's a checklist of things that you should bring to the 8-hour class so that we can move it along very smoothly. Okay. I'm Alfonso Montebello. Creative Web Actions is my little small company. I'm a freelancer. I'm also over here on this sign here. I don't know if you can see that as well. And you have my email address as well as my phone number if you need to get in touch with me. Oh, wrong way. And the objective of today's session is, I'm going to tell you the objectives of this session, as well as talk about the internet and how big it is. We're going to talk about branding, new paradigm in marketing. We're going to talk about the 4 basic principles of design. We're going to jump into SEO from a high-level point of view. And then we're going to talk about developing the website and domain naming and this project checklist for the class, okay? Our objectives here are to look at the internet today, recognize what branding is and marketing and segmentation, messaging, the key design issues, how SEO feeds into all of that, and to look at the planning and the purpose of the website, to develop it before we actually start. So, the internet, if you, just to show you the numbers that are so huge, the Milky Way contains between 200 to 400,000 stars, billion stars, okay? And that's a picture of the Milky Way, our galaxy. And the internet, this is a map of the internet. It was done to show all of the connections throughout the internet. And there are 1 trillion pages out there. So the internet is bigger than our galaxy, essentially, with the number of stars. There are over 4 billion searches a day. There are 9 trillion emails. There are over 200 billion online sales. And there's this concept of global versus local. So what we're talking about here is the entire internet. But when you get down to local, where we're talking about just this area, it's considerably less. So the thing that you should walk away with is the internet is extremely large. And if you build a website and you think, well, I'm going to be on the first page, think again. I don't know why it's sort of faded like that.
Yeah, that's good over there.
Hmm?
Looks good on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So typically a small business, they have a limited budget. They can't afford any real marketing professional. Their content is limited. The guy works around the clock. He really doesn't know how to create collateral. And they don't have the expertise to jump into web design. As a result, the website they produce is degraded in that its findability is hard, and there's a dissatisfaction of the way it ranks, okay? And a lot of it's because the guy is lacking the knowledge. And so part of the thing is to sort of recognize this up front and to be able to reach out to other people in the community to try to figure out why it's not performing better, okay? So not only do we want to build a website that looks good and that people could go in and be proud of, but we also want one that's you can find on the internet. Because if you can't find it, there's a problem. One of the emerging forces that are coming out today is mobile technology, and it's actually in the world, there are more people that have mobile phones than they have PCs. So the takeaway from this is your website should operate on a mobile device. If it doesn't, it's severely handicapped. The other thing that's emerged as a primary force that's actually changed marketing is social media, and particularly the top social media networks, which are Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and Wikipedia.
Do you really think that businesses use the social media?
Yeah, definitely LinkedIn is a key thing for recruiting and for business to business. Facebook is more of a business to consumer environment. Twitter is a much smaller following, but a lot of businesses are using it for service responses to people if they've got an appliance and they put it in and they want to contact the person.
But LinkedIn for
Yeah.
business to business.
Yeah, particularly recruiters. That's how they get the headhunters. So if you're looking for a job, you want to keep that updated. That's one of the basic things that they use as a tool. So if you look at the internet, it started pretty much as the website as a portal, and there was some search engines, and then it moved to where it is sort of today, but it's continuing to evolve with social media. Where search engines have gotten better, they got better results, and there are more directories out there. And then finally, this other phase, which is coming, is characterized by the cloud as well as smart agents and a thing called pervasive computing. Pervasive computing means an internet node will be in almost everything. Not only your appliances, but your clothing, your furniture, everything. Everything will be connected to the internet and will have a response, and they'll know where it is, if it needs service. And so that's the whole thing about pervasive computing. And with smart agents, it will make decisions for you, so you don't have to do anything about trying to search. You just say, hey, I need tickets for a play tonight. I need a nice place to go to dinner. And it will figure it out because it will learn from your history of what you like and your preferences. So this is where we're going in the future. So the first question is, do you exist? Does your presence on the internet, is it out there? It's the old proverbial tree in the forest. If it falls and there's nobody around, did it really fall? Okay, so you want to be able to exist. And existence is based on whether you can go into a search engine and type in a keyword that is the name of your business or your name, and it pops up. Okay? If it pops up 4,000 pages down the line, essentially nobody's going to ever know you exist. So the big thing is, how do you get that to happen? You don't have to have a website to have a web presence. With local directories and social media, you can pop up on a search engine your name or anything. The second thing is, once they get to your website, they're going to go with a problem, or they're going to have a question, and what they want to know is the answer to that. So is your website designed in such a way that it's user-friendly, that they could find what they're seeking? Okay? So here again, the business purpose is to establish growth of the brand, to have an identity out there. The web presence is not just in a single location. It's not only the website, social media, local directories, search engine, and the website, having a website, based on what we saw previously, the website is like the North Star here. It's in all these things. It's anticipated that as the internet evolves and grows, the website will still be there. Okay? It's the only one that really has your best interest and controlled by you. When you look at social media and you look at Facebook, the makers of Facebook, they're not really concerned about you. They're concerned about making money for themselves, but you're on for the ride. So your ability to present yourself in the best light and deliver the content you want is a little bit sort of buffered. So this is supposed to be a relationship diagram of two circles. I don't know if you can see it on my computer here.
Oh, okay, I gotta say that on my relationship. Okay, I got it.
I don't know why.
Somehow that blue
The mon-
wall
yeah,
is
yeah,
really
the money is
Yeah.
messing with your blues.
I know. It's sort of like hiding it. We had the first one coming in, but they gave it to the kids. So. And then I told them I needed a projector. You need a projector. So this whole thing about a relationship between the brand and the customer, that relationship is different than it was years ago because it is a two-way communication. It's a dialogue between the customer and the brand. Now the brand may be the owner of an establishment. So if you own a business, you are the brand. Because essentially all of your philosophy, your values in life, how you run a business, that's accentuated in you as the brand. So you want to make this relationship. The bigger the relationship between the customer and the brand, the larger the amount of revenue that you're going to get because there's more loyalty. The further away it is, then it's sort of like a one-time shop. They buy something from you and then they disappear. Today's sort of focus is to gather that customer, become a lifetime customer, develop that relationship. So, this is a business card. It's the first declaration of your brand. And here's mine right here. But business cards started years and years ago. Actually, in ancient Rome, they had business cards. They had little plaques made of wood, people's names on it. And they were a combination like a business card and a postcard. So they could send them around. And the way they found these is in dump sites. They found all these plaques of people's businesses with their name and all written in Latin. So that was sort of the first declaration of the brand. And this idea of a brand and a logo actually goes back to prehistoric times, prehistory, I should say, and were people that made pottery. They marked their pottery with a mark, with a symbol, to indicate their quality, their design, and people were known by their mark. Okay? And if you look at like Mitsubishi, they have a mark. It's their logo, which is actually a samurai symbol that goes back to ancient Japan. So these things are not new. So this brand is sort of an identity. It's a symbol that represents them, but it also has a reputation associated with it. And the peculiar thing about it is that it's entirely in the mind of the beholder. Because if you've got a bunch of people that think you make a shoddy product and it's no good, and they perpetuate that perceived idea, the brand gets linked with that sort of understanding, that attribute, and everybody says, hey, it's a piece of junk. I don't know if you remember, after World War II, Japan was making a whole bunch of products, knickknacks and everything. Used to take them off the shelf, they used to break, and everybody goes, it came from Japan, and they were known for their poor quality. And their brand was reflected on that. And then they changed their whole thing, and today now they're some of the toppest quality as far as electronics. But here's some of the brands out there today that have symbols that when people see it, okay? Now see, Coca-Cola has a brand, and what they sell is sugared water and flavoring, but they're a multi-billion-dollar business, And a lot of people believe that 20% of their revenue, I don't know why it's clicking, 20% of their revenue comes from the brand itself because of their promotional, their advertising, all their jingles, everything they bring out there. That's part of the offering. So it's not just the physical product. The brand is the experience, okay? When you buy something, you're not just buying a product, you're buying an experience. From when you meet the salesman for the first time to when you bring it home, okay? And sometimes it's not even necessary that you buy it. You can lease it or rent it, and you get perks like if you lease a Cadillac. One of the big things you get is prestige of renting this car. So that's what you're paying for, and that's part of the brand. So one thing brands do is they separate you from being they separate you from being a commodity. Like one of the biggest commodities today is salt. Salt is very cheap. You can get it by buckets. You get a backhoe and they can dig for salt, and you get it from the ocean. And Morton Salt has a brand on it, and they demand a big price. And their big slogan was, when it rains, it pours. Doesn't mean that it pours rain, it means salt is able to pour when it's moist out. That's one of their big things. So as you can see, the brand is very important when you want to identify yourself, and we talk about this relationship between the brand and the customer. So brand building is not something you get for free. It's a constant task. If you sell something to somebody and they're unhappy, you've got to work on that to make them happy. You've got to satisfy them. You've got to explain to other people, even if they're unreasonable. The other thing is, a small business will say, I don't have the money to really do anything. Well, if you don't answer and you don't take care of it, it could be a big problem and it could ruin your reputation. So you can look at it that way, that it's part of your reputation. And the ability to have a brand that's high quality, that people say you do great work, or you build great products, means you could demand a higher price, okay? The other thing is, if people are unfamiliar with you, how do they trust you? How do they get confidence in you? The brand fulfills that gap. So part of the website is the sort of the home base of developing your brand, to keeping that brand going. So today, you've got sort of this internet world here, where you have search engines and you have directories, and you've got people looking at this, but on the outside you've got business cards, signage, invoices, you've got people with t-shirts, you've got newspapers, brochures, white papers, coupons. These are all interrelated in that they are connected. And the brand is consistent across that. So if you have a color scheme for your brand, which is maybe blue and white, that blue and white should appear on every article of collateral, whether it's a t-shirt or a sign or an invoice, okay? You want that consistency so that when they see it, they know it's you. There's an identity associated with it. So if you look at the website as this North Star that is constant, that is everything is changing around you, the internet is changing, the way we do business, but the internet is open 24 by 7.
427.
Yeah, or you can, any place in the world, you can get on a mobile device and you can get to the internet. So your website is essentially a beacon of who you are. It has information about you. So it's the one constant thing you want to work on and connect everything back to. So you can have emails with an email signature that goes back to your website. You can have a message board and a forum associated. You can have a blog. You're going to have social media, paid per click, YouTube. The stuff in the green here are more or less physical things in reality, while these are more virtual. But they can all connect back to your website, which is part of your brand. It's an expression of your brand. So your brand sort of encompasses the URL or the domain of your website. It conveys a personality. It has an image, there's a logo, there's color scheme associated with it. Jonathan is a business consultant, and if he chose a color scheme of pink, would they take him seriously? Would they think, oh, maybe he just goes, his clients are young girls, or
You can pull mine up live too.
so even the choice of keywords sort of feed into what you're known for in your brand and all of the properties that are out there. When I say web properties, these are independent locations that have URLs that may be connected to your website or your web presence. Certainly, any of the collateral, if you have a sales flyer, you want it to have the same colors, the same look and feel as your website, okay? So that people look at it, they're familiar with it. So this is more of the same thing. Cross-channel, you want to manage your web properties from a single place. There's a constant beat of the message that you're sending out. You want that message to be the same. Okay? Yes.
What is the term channel?
Channel is like a path to another thing. Say you had a business partner that was selling your services or your product. That would be a channel. Okay? If you had an internet sales where they could buy stuff on the internet, that would be a channel. If you had a sales force that you hired people that would sell your stuff, that's a channel.
Okay.
So it's a sort of a conduit from the brand to the customer. So the big thing is you want to maintain this brand. You want to reinforce it in the mind. Remember, the brand is in the head. It's all in the mind. And so you don't actually create it. You try to influence it. You try to manage it. But you've got to look at the customer and always be talking to the customer to find out where it is. And what you're looking for, and we return to this thing all the time, is you want to change the situation about your business. You want to change the sales situation. Obviously, you want more business. And you want to make contact. You want touch points where people are going to call you up. So those are the things that are the results of that. And then this is, again, this crazy diagram. I don't want if I put this up. Doesn't make any difference.
No.
I want to try to change the color.
Yeah.
Graphic.
It's not like now, but certainly the next time. So this relationship between brand and customer is a relationship that takes a lot of work and is a dialogue, and that is not something you just forget. You want to renew the understanding of what the customer wants. Okay? In fact, that's probably this next thing, which is the new paradigm. After World War II, up to 1973, most of the marketing was done by mass marketing, and it was based on production. During World War II, we were able to create tanks and jeeps and planes, and we had every man, woman, and child involved in the war effort. And the biggest thing that we got out of it was production. We were able to make things very quickly, and we became very efficient. And when the war ended, we used that same philosophy to sell stuff on TV. And it was all about producing and the consumer accepting. So it was a one-way sort of communication. But since the internet has come, about 1973, what happened is the growth actually got cut in half after 73, and things changed. There was no longer this push of a one-way communication, this approach to be sort of customer-driven, to try to find out what the customer wants and try to satisfy them. And that's what this new paradigm is about. It's a two-way communication where in the past you would build a product and then you would find a customer. Now they go out and they look at a customer and they say, what do you need? What's your problem? What's your pain points? Then they go back in-house and they say, how can we solve this problem? So that is the paradigm of today. You always look on the outside and try to determine what is needed, and then you build that to satisfy that segment. So it's this interaction. You know, you're going to talk to the customer, you're going to get a response, one of the things is people are not concerned with features and details. They want things done. They want the water to be fixed. They want a shirt that they can put in the washer and it's going to come clean. They don't care about the details. They just want things to happen from a benefit point of view. So that's the biggest thing, that when you do your websites, you've got to be thinking with that in mind. You're going to try to satisfy, you're going to try to give the communication of why your website will help that customer. And you're no longer dealing with the mass media of people that watch Leave It to Beaver, or now you're talking to individuals. And then you're segmenting for different types of individuals. And you're trying to create custom offerings per individual. That's what everybody's doing today. And they call that mass customization. So the message is what the customer needs and what you have to tell them why that you can help. So this message must be consistent through all channels. So whether you're on the internet, whether you have signage, or whether you have a sales flyer, the message must be consistent. If you give a different message on every single channel, people get confused. They wonder, is this the same company? Are they offering the same thing? You know, people get confused very easily. So the biggest thing that's come out today is you've got to treat information as an element of the business, of something that is part of the strategy. So you want to manage the substance of what's in the communication and the communication flow. And this today is the competitive advantage. If you're quiet about what you produce and how you produce it, your quality and your experience and your customer set, you're doing yourself an injustice. Okay? But everything is sort of changing. The marketplace is changing, so the marketer or person that builds the website is a dynamic here of trying to change to meet the differences that are occurring. So people, next year there's a new trend, or there's maybe an economic downturn where they don't have, you've got to address that. You've got to address it with your product, your business, your brand, but also on your website and communication. So it's very important to understand your linkage is to this individual out there, okay? So you want to seek a dialogue and exchange information, okay? You want to give them stuff, maybe a free white paper or information. You want to get them to give you information about what they think is important and vital to them, because you want to be able to satisfy them better than the competitors. Okay? So we mentioned, if you're a small business owner, like Jonathan is his brand. His education, the way he carries himself, how he cuts his hair and everything, that's all part of his brand image. If he walks out in a bathing suit with no shirt on, people won't take him seriously as a consultant, especially a business consultant. So there's a certain image.
You may need the extra worn and tie.
I
Just
thought I
pick
should
it up.
take a shower.
I know, that's okay.
So It's this perception in the mind of the customer that we've got to recognize. There are no truths. The truth is what is ever perceived in the mind of the customer. If he thinks you're no good, then that's the truth. You may have all the facts, but convincing him, and he holds on to the purse strings, and there are a lot of them, and if there's one person, there's quite a few. So the idea is to turn that around and to understand what the perception is. And the decisions are to determine the perception of how to change it. And that's very hard. Changing people is hard, and I'll show you why. So the perception is the truth, or the brand positioning. You heard of the same brand positioning, positioning the brand? What that is positioning it in the mind, which is very difficult. So if somebody believes that you have a shoddy product, it's very hard to change that. You can have all the proof and the statistics in the world, but to change that is partly emotional, partly is sort of repetition, and the other thing is it takes a long time. So, and we're going to get into this, inside their mind, they have a certain way of thinking. And that is sort of established, and when there's a conflict, they ignore what you say. Okay? So, if you go to Red Lobster and you know that they have seafood, and somebody says, yeah, but they sell shoes too. Your mind sort of like just rejects it because it's not part of that paradigm which you believe, okay? So the brand is in the mind of a person, and it's stored in different levels, and our whole thing is to keep this two-way communication, to get this brand-customer relationship, and to maintain that. Okay? So this is a diagram of what's in the mind of a customer. And it is believed through scientific research that inside the mind there are chunks of data and information that are linked together in a network of a hierarchy. And there is sort of like a superstructure, and it's based on long-term and short-term memory and the ability to trigger certain keywords to get to something, okay? So this one shows a beverage thing, you know. So in your mind you have this thing about beverages, and then they're broken up into categories: soft drink, fruit drink, beer, and then there's a subordinate level that actually identifies a different, like a cola to a diet cola. So it's an artificial sweetener. Then you have another subordinate thing that says lemon and lime, and might be Sprite or 7-Up. So you can see the brands are sort of underneath this hierarchy. So you have fruit juice, you got orange, you got Tropicana, you got apple juice, you've got this thing that says breakfast, okay? So in the mind you're thinking orange juice breakfast. So if you're trying to serve orange juice at dinner time, there's a lot of people that see a conflict there. They're not going to want to do it, even if you say it's great and everything else. That's what I'm talking about, this conflict. This is in their mind, it's sort of formed, okay? And the marketer has to work with this and develop his messaging to sort of conform to that and change it over time. And of course the beer, and then this shows in this limited thing, this is light beer, and you got Miller Lite, and you got Bud Light, okay? And there's a medium price. So with beers, you have different types of beers. You got beers that are very expensive. And when you discount those expensive beers, the people that usually buy the cheap beer will go up and buy the expensive beer. The beers that are on the bottom that are cheap, if you discount them, nothing happens. Because the people on the top are not going to go down. So the whole idea is about value, of what people perceive as value. So if you have a brand here, the marketer's job is to try to get this brand to become a category. Now, if you take a look at Apple, when they created the iPhone, they created a new category. It's sort of a phone with an internet, and they became the category. They became that second level. So they got tremendous brand leadership and also a lot of revenue. And that's what we're trying to do with all of our collateral and building our website. We're trying to take this concept of a brand and move it up in this hierarchy in the mind of the customer. So we talked about the 3 levels of storage. The brands are located in the customer's mental hierarchy of categorization scheme, which means each customer can have a different picture or configuration. And each brand consists of a level of concept of categorization, but it's also based on the education, the socioeconomic means of the people, the way they think, okay? And that's why some target audiences think different from others, okay? So you have to take that into consideration. So we're trying to get the most discrimination by going to the highest level of these 3 storage things, and our goal is to go to the basic level. If you can go to the basic level, you hit the jackpot. So, and that's what I mentioned with the iPhone. Remember years ago you used to have Xerox, used to make copies? People used to say, Xerox that for me. They were inadvertently saying that that was the category, because they made the category of copy and Xerox the same. It was a great place to be.
Yeah, Alfonso, but there was also, with Xerox and also with Q-tips, they want, you can only push it so far, because once your brand becomes a synonym to a product, case in point aspirin, then you lose rights with that.
Kleenex was another case.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so it's always kind of like, you want the association of the product with your brand, but you don't want your brand to become outright synonymous, or else you will lose that. Because, say for example, someone can market another machine, Rico, and
Yeah.
say, buy our Xerox machine. And then if it became a synonym, there would be no legal grounds for them to be sued.
But if you're, like the case with the iPhone, you produce that, there's no competition. You become that category. Then the next strategy is to figure out what you're going to do next and how you're going to differentiate. And of course, all these people are going to be out there trying to figure out how you did it. They're going to buy these phones, they're going to give it to all of their competitors, they're going to re-engineer it, and in 18 months, they're going to come up with something cheaper that's going to fight you with. So you've got to, in that sort of environment, you have to be prepared that to be having a consistent lead, you have to come with another product and another product. So here's a sort of an overview of a marketing segment. Like I said, years ago, you actually took sort of something which was a generality. Like you took a segment, it was a generality about different people in that sort of segment. And they usually had like a family was 2.1 children, they had a car and everything else, and then they would get secondary information and they would sort of just take that segment and go after it, okay? But today, we talked about the individual and the micro segment, but when you're starting out in business, the first thing that comes to your mind is, how are you going to make sure that you make money, okay? If you go after a particular customer set, is there enough revenue there to earn your money? And I apologize for this washed out thing, I can't believe it, but this is sort of the thing. I deal with small customers, so that's my customer set. So there's a tier 1 and a tier 2 of small customers. And so this gives the size. I can't read
Your
it. I have to
blue
go
on
back.
blue, that's your problem.
What is it?
Your blue
Yeah.
screen on a blue wall.
Yeah. But so the first tier has 1 to 4 employees. That makes up 72% of the U.S. businesses out there. They spend about 6% of the IT budget, and there are 21 million employees with this segment, okay? So if that's the segment that I'm going after, I know that there's a segment that exists, there's money out there. The second tier is U.S. businesses that are commercially located to have 4 to 99 employees. There are 6.3 million firms out there. They make up 22% of the U.S. businesses, and they employ 55 million employees, and they spend 27% of the IT budget. So all these things are important in making a determination of who you're going to go after. So I'm going to go after, if you can barely read it, 1 to 35 employees. There are 17 million firms out there that make up 80% of the businesses in the U.S., and they have employed 48 million employees, or 38% of the U.S. workforce, and they spend about 14% of the IT budget. So these are just numbers of secondary things, so you sort of get a warm and fluffy feeling that, hey, you know, I'm going to go after this segment, okay? So in this segment, there are, you know, sort of attributes associated. The challenges for these customers that I'm going after, they want to attract new customers, they want to grow revenue, they want to maintain profitability, and they want alternate financing. So those are things that I have to consider. And so now we have this large segment, and then we got subsegments, okay? So one of the ways, and this is purely the way you want to slice and dice your segments. So if this is small and medium business, maybe this is about just women that own businesses. So this is a much smaller piece of it, okay? And there's associated opportunity and risk associated. Maybe this is, you know, people that are plumbers, okay? And this may be a certain region, this may be the Tampa Bay region, okay? And what I do is sort of break it down even further into these blocks, which I call personas, okay? So we're going to make a person that is sort of reflective of what this group is all about. And this person, you're going to sort of describe them. And when you write your contents on the website, you're going to be writing it to this person. And you really want to have a good mental picture of what that person looks like. If it's a woman, if it's a man, what color hair they have, who they have in their family, how they spend their money, what kind of car they drive. You want to relate to them, but you want to write the content that's focused on them. So we go to the microsegment, okay? We need to get data that is factual. We just can't make up stuff. So we have to go out to people and we have to talk to them, get their facts. And we got to look at people that are representative from these groups. And we're going to talk to a lot of people, interview them. We're going to collect this stuff and we're going to make this sort of ideal persona. And that's the one that we're going to target, okay? And the persona allows us to think about the target audience and to write copy and create a design that will appeal to that persona. So, in my case, the target audience is small business, less than 35 employees, okay? But I'm going to go narrow. I'm going to say I want service providers. So these people sell what I call the invisible product, because services is intangible. So with that are a bunch of challenges. In addition, the service provider does a job by either hour or contract or a fixed price. So we got a little insight in the way they spend money and make decisions. Then we can go a little deeper and give examples of the persona. And we could say, You know, these people have a website problem. I want to go after those. So that's the persona. Maybe they don't have a website. Well, how do you know they don't have a website? Well, you go to their business card, and there's no website address on the business card. So that's the focus, you know? That's a way you can instantly find them. But of these, there are different businesses that are in different phases of maturity. One is that might be on the bottom and hurting, and they have poor cash flow. Another one, they may be stable. Another one, they may be expanding. Another one might be very mature, but they're losing position in the marketplace, or they're concerned about reducing costs. So all of these things enter into developing this persona. Okay, everybody got that? So here's my persona, which you can't read. And it's broken up into 4 sections. Who is the persona? And I'll read it to you. It's a small business owner. He's 58 years old. He has 2 grandchildren. He has gray hair. He wears glasses. Okay? He has a family with older children that may work for him. His spouse is involved with the business. Okay? He owns his own home. He thinks about retirement, maybe in the next 10 years. He has an income above $100,000. Okay? So that's the mental image you want to write to. He is a no-nonsense, hands-on person. He's involved day-to-day with the work efforts. He leads new opportunities. He doesn't let his employees just do it by themselves. He wants to make sure that it gets done. He's part of the team. He personally takes charge at all levels. He wears different hats, jumps in. It's like Superman. A problem, he fixes it. He's impatient. He wants results quickly. Okay? His purchasing behavior, he's the decision maker. He's the person that will ask for advice, but the final decision is with him. He takes the final word. He listens to everybody, and then he does what he wants. That's a lot different than some organizations, especially a corporate organization, where it's more of an oligarchy of a board. Okay? His buying process is usually about him thinking about things. He thinks about, gee, I might need a website, you know? I think and it's the back of his mind. And usually if he hasn't thought about it, it's a tough thing to get him to start to think about. He considers trade-offs between time and money. So he says, well, you know, I could build a website myself, but I'm a busy guy. It's going to ruin my weekends and everything else. Might as well give it to this guy and let him create the website. Then he has concerns and pain points. Work. He works in the field. He's concerned about who's going to take over as far as supervision, who he can trust. He wants to ensure there's a steady flow of work, keep his people employed. So that's one of his things that he wrestles with at night. He's concerned about cash flow. If he doesn't have the cash flow and the credit to pay things, that's actually one of the reasons why a lot of companies go bankrupt. It's not that they're not making a profit, it's because they can't pay the immediate bills. So cash flow is a challenge sometimes, and it is a concern. So if you can help a customer with that, that's going to be something that is going to be a benefit to them. He wants to know about how he can get more customers, new sources of revenue. So this is sort of a persona that I have in my mind, so I would write contents based on that information. And for your website, for your business, you're going to have a different persona. And you may have 3 or 4 personas, okay? Each one different, each one focused on a different type of target audience that you want to satisfy. And like we said in the beginning, the problem is out there, it's not inside. Years ago, we used to look at our skill base and produce stuff and then try to find customers. Now you want to look on the outside, find out what the problem is, and address those customers with a solution. Now we're going to switch over to something, we're going to go to SEO stuff, okay? As you know, search engine optimization The biggest one is Google out there, has 68% of the market share. You get a website, you have this Google box, it crawls it, and it looks essentially for keywords, and it records the address and description, and it caches the page in this big, huge database. It has these servers that are monumental. A lot of Dennis owned, if he could sell to them, he would be a billionaire today. So this a website become indexed, okay? And you could use this command, site : and the URL of your website, determine whether it's indexed. You go to the Google search box and you type that in. Now, when you want to use it to actually find something, you're going to go to a browser, you're going to go to the google.com, and there is a Google search argument box, and you're going to type in some search items, okay? A keyword phrase or something. It's going to go to this huge database that is sorted by keywords, and it's going to find the best match, and it's going to sort of configure a list of a whole bunch of pages and descriptions. Then it has what is called the secret algorithm that Google won't tell how it actually works. So that people are always sort of like trying to figure out what it is. And it's going to take those results and it's going to rank them into a search engine result page. And the first page will have usually some listings on the top that are paid listings and some on the side. And then there will be some Google Maps stuff, and then there will be 10 organic entries that are ranked based on the keywords that you put in with a keyword phrase. And then there will be other pages, okay? And it will go out to thousands of pages. If you're not on the first few pages, you're not anywhere in view. If you're on the 1,000 page, it doesn't mean anything. So the big thing is getting on the first page, okay? So there are 10 slots there, and then when you click on it, you're able to get the result. So that's how Google works. Now, the way it ranks is based on an algorithm that has something to do with relevancy and popularity, okay? How well the keyword search is relevant to the content of your page and how popular it is. Okay? So I'm going to go to the next one. And just to say findability, that target audience can't find you on the internet. Essentially, you might have a great website, but you're an underutilized website. If somebody spent $2,000 with me, and I designed a website, and nobody could ever find them, they would say that was a poor investment, even though it looks pretty. Because what's the utility of it? You know, what are they going to get from it? So part of your designing a website is how people are going to get to it. That should be a major concern as you're building it. Getting customers to perform an action is another thing. So the purpose of the website is to get people to go there and either download a white paper or contact you or click on a link or make a comment. And so you want to look at the website as a marketing asset that gets conversions. And a conversion is the ability to measure something like the number of leads or a way to improve awareness of your brand or incoming traffic. If you had a blog and a lot of people went to the blog and they read your articles, those articles, by knowing that people are going to you, that means that they view you as an authoritative of a subject matter expert. So you get a lot of clout. There's a lot of things you can get just by having people come to your website. Okay? You get an authority associated with that. So, They find you, they go to your website, and they're looking for something. So now we go back into design. The design of the website must be geared to what are they looking for. They got to find that very easily, okay? So you got to know what's in the mind of this customer because that's the way you want to organize your website. And you want them to keep coming back. You want it sticky. You don't want to just go once. You want to keep coming back. So there has to be sort of a strategy about how you're going to keep them to come back. Maybe there's articles or giveaways or white papers or contests or whatever, okay? So search engines like websites that have a natural keyword, that you write great content, but the keywords are in it. The keyword is not repeated every other paragraph, so when you read it, it's sort of awkward. It wants to be natural. It's supposed to be of value to the reader. In fact, all of your content on your website is first written for the individual, for the human, and secondly, for the search engine. The content, okay, must be clear and hierarchical. Many times, with any type of complex concept, you want to break it into pieces, and you want to have headers that sort of specify it so that the people can read it very easily, okay? And search engines love that stuff, okay? Especially the way you index pages and you create your menus. You can actually see it in the search engine result page. You'll be sectioned out, okay? It's all from the organization and the way you make that content. Search engines love websites that load quickly, that are fast. If it takes too long and it goes over so many seconds, the bots will just stop and not index anymore. Inbound links from reputable sites. So one of the ways you become popular is by incoming links, sort of a vote of popularity. But who you get the link from is very important. If you got a link from a plumber that has a local business, it has a little bit of value. But if you got a link from the New York Times, boy, you hit the jackpot because that has a tremendous value associated. So not all links are created equal, okay? It depends on their origin and their reputation and how popular that site is. The other thing is people try to do what's called black hat things. They try to fake Google out, like stuff it with keywords, do things that are sort of against their rules. And if they get caught, they get penalized. So you want to really be white hat in what you do. So one of the biggest things is when you get a domain, the longevity of that domain says something. It means you're on the internet for a long time. And that has value and it adds to your ranking. Also, if your site is free from code errors. If you've got a lot of code errors and broken links, that affects the way Google views you. And the content has to be sort of written in such a way that it's interesting, but a lot of what Google does, it can't really read and understand it. So it has all these algorithms that are natural language algorithms that look for things. Like if you're doing a website on epilepsy, it has sort of vocabulary of all these words that are related to epilepsy. And it will look for these words. And it will determine whether that content is relevant and whether you are an expert in your field. And it likes a lot of content. If you go to 1,000 words, Google thinks it's great. People who read it, because we're a society today that are self-imposed illiteracy, because we don't, anything too long we don't want to read. So one of the things when you design a web page is to design it so it's easy to read, small paragraphs, headers that people can scan, so that And nowadays on the internet, everybody scans. They don't read, they scan. So, when Google first started, there was Larry Page and Sidney Byrne that were looking to develop this search engine better than anybody else. And they had an idea. They said, let's go to academia. And what they noticed that research papers and academic papers, the ones that had relevancy and that everybody liked, had citations associated with them. And as they went on to the internet, the DOD at the time was the internet, and they put all this research stuff on, they had these hyperlinks, and the number of hyperlinks going to one of these pages with a lot of citations, they discovered that those were really good stuff. So they mimicked that, and they created, with the algorithm, essentially what we have today, which is based on relevancy of the content that is popular. The two things, relevancy and popularity. So when you're writing your content, you're going to focus on those two things, relevant content and popularity. Although, when you write it on the site, you really have no real control of popularity because that's off-site with links coming in, right? Now, popularity is sort of a combination of two things. One is the number of incoming links. The other thing is the domain itself. The domain itself has sort of a reputation associated with it. We talked about one of the things which was longevity. If you have a domain that has been years and years on the internet, it has a certain popularity because it's been there for a long time. If you have a website that is an adult website and you're on the same IP address as that, that's like the kiss of death because that is no good. That's very unpopular. So you get penalized for that. So you want to stay away from that. So having a domain associated with either negatives like that is going to hurt you.
So that's where your hosting account sits.
Yeah, and whether you have a shared account, okay.
Or a static.
So remember, ranking is not a function of the website or the page. It's a function of the keywords you put in. You're going to rank to a set of keywords, or keyword phrases. And that's how you rank. Because a page could have